To wrap us up, our final presentation of the conference, please join me welcoming Tanya Franklin.
Thanks. All right. Thank you guys for sticking around. Appreciate it. We are in the home stretch. We're almost at the finish line. So just bear with me for a few seconds or a few minutes, and then we'll get you out of here. So, what an interesting 3 days. We've heard a lot of information about a lot of cool things going on in our industry. There are a lot of really neat, innovative ways now for us to do what we do. And I'm not going to inundate you with more around this. We've heard lots and lots and lots and lots over the last few days. But when you look at this list and you look at all the things that we are trying to do to innovate what it is we do, this is really about the how. So how are we going to deliver those insights? How are we going to try to do things differently, a little bit more edgy, more innovative? What it doesn't really address is the who. So if you have all of this cool stuff, who has to execute against it? Who's the one who's being responsible for delivering the business insights and making those actions happen for your company? Who are the people who have to put their reputation on the line and take a chance on a new method or a new company and just prove it out? So when we look at things like this, it's not just about the how we want to innovate, it's more about who has to innovate and how are you going to build those teams to foster that culture of innovation. And that's what I'm going to try to get at. But before I do, I just wanted to throw this up here as an example, or an analogy rather. Cool bike. You know, it's got the latest and greatest technology, I guess, for a bike. You know, it totally disrupts the whole hub and spoke concept that's been around in bikes for 100+ years or more. If I were someone who manufactured bike wheels, I'd probably be pretty scared if I saw something like this start to take hold in the cycling industry. So, you know, latest, cool stuff. But what's missing? Anyone? The rider. So how's this thing going to get through the finish line? How is this thing going to really prove itself out? It takes the skills, and it takes just the ability for the rider to take a chance on something like this. And it's that rider who has to get this technology working for him or her and to get past that finish line. So the same is true if you take a look at this list again. All these things on their own aren't going to do anything for Lowe's. Nothing. What's it going to take? Well, it's going to take the people. It's going to take our teams. It's going to take more of a culture of innovation to build tangible innovation. And this is what I'm going to focus on for the next few minutes. What are those major themes? And there's 4 that I'm going to point out. What are those themes that we really have to look at to foster that culture of innovation, which leads you down a natural path of tangible innovation? So let's take a look first at the tangible part of it. And this is what we talk about quite often. You know, it's something that we have to do in a changing marketplace to stay relevant. When you think about how customers are evolving and how their needs are evolving and just how their environments are evolving, we have to evolve with them. However, this is just part of the story. And you know, Lowe's is definitely playing in this space. We're doing a lot of investing and just researching and developing new technologies, some of which, you know, Lenny mentioned that we had here last year. But this alone is not going to do it for us. You know, the disruptive bike that I just showed you, it's all cool and everything, but this alone is not going to create an innovative company. So that's when you start to look more inward. You start to look more at your talent pool and who it is you're recruiting into your business who's going to lead you down that path of innovation. And for us, especially within the Insights group, we're looking more at our talent in ways where we're looking for those behavioral cues around innovation. So what is it going to take in order for a person to have more of that curious mindset? Some of this is sort of instinctive for a person. They just sort of naturally behave that way. Some of it is more learned, people adapt. But in general, what are those things that you really look for and try to pick up on when you're bringing talent into your department or your organization? A lot of times you might see where people are interviewing talent, and when you look at the interview evaluation criteria, a lot of it is just about their skills and their education and how many degrees they have and what certificates they have. But how are we looking at their ability to connect the dots when the dots aren't always very apparent? How are we really assessing people when they're challenging the status quo and just wanting to take a step out and take a risk? So those types of things are what we're looking at more from a behavioral standpoint in order to really create that underpinning of innovation at Lowe's. And what we've done at Lowe's is we've bucketed these behavioral cues into what we call agilities. Now, that's pretty self-explanatory. Agility, the ability to just kind of flex, be nimble, and just adapt, your willingness to adapt. And so at Lowe's, when we take a look at these agilities, we've created 4 big buckets of them, and I'm going to go through those here quickly. So the first one, I'm going to look at my notes here. The first one is mental agility. So this is your ability, when you think about your mental state of mind, the ability to really scan, look at more of an overall perspective, take in a lot and absorb a lot across various different touch points and try to digest all that and figure out what it all means. Someone who's very comfortable with ambiguity, doesn't always have to be spelled out for a person. On the flip side, someone who's maybe low in this area, low agility, would be a person who they might just be caught up in past assumptions or past views. Well, it's always been done this way, so we're just going to keep doing it this way. Or, I don't know about that. There's not enough learning or white papers written about this, and my PhD background isn't really going to support me adopting this type of approach or method or whatever. So if you're low in this area, you're a little bit more resistant to change, and you try to gravitate more to those proven methods. The next one is results agility. So for this one, it's really more about how driven are you to deliver the goods. So a lot of times, it's about the follow-through. And if you take a look at it, being able to be resourceful, inspiring others. But on the flip side of this, someone who might be low in this area, they might have trouble inspiring their teams or inspiring their peers. Maybe they don't informally influence others very well. And that's especially important for people who don't manage other people. So how are they really able to influence their teammates if it's not a direct reporting relationship? Someone who might be low in this area might lack personal drive and, just more of a lackadaisical approach to things and might not be very easily able to shift between things. The next thing is people agility, and this is really a lot more about that interpersonal relationship with others and your ability to flex and adapt based on the situation. So, someone who's open-minded, and also one thing that I think is really important here, someone who's self-questioning and self-aware. So a person who's low in this area might be someone who doesn't have a really good self-awareness of their skills. Either they underestimate or overestimate their own abilities, and they don't realize it. And I guess to our discredit, we don't bring it up to them enough. But being a personal learner, embracing those diverse interactions and not shying away from them is very important as well. Someone who's low in this area, they probably mishandle those situations or those coaching moments. They are probably not open to change as much. And then the last one is change itself, so change agility. So when you look at change agility, these are the tinkerers. These are the ones who really like to, get their hands dirty and play around with stuff. So those people who are experimenters, they're always challenging the status quo. And what's important in realm here is taking the heat. So if I'm willing to take a risk, I'm also willing to be accountable and stand up for that. I think a lot of times people say, oh yeah, we embrace risk-taking, but do you really? I mean, if someone spends $50,000 on a project and it doesn't deliver the insights that you wanted, are you going to say, that's all right, we did take some learnings from it. Let's just move forward. Someone who's low in this area is probably not going to have a really good way of driving to get results. They might not be very good at problem solving, and they may not have that good of a personal drive or presence. So these are the agilities, long story short. But the next area is really more about the experiences that a person can bring to the table. And a lot of this also helps to bring more of that diversity of thought, openness to change, which drives you down a natural path of innovation. So when you look at experiences, I'm going to throw a couple things up here for you. These at first glance don't really look like they have a whole lot in common, right? What's this got to do with research? Not much. Well, this was me before I came to Lowe's. This is my background. Very non-traditional, just kind of went from area to area, fell into research, and hopefully Lowe's thinks I was a good bet. But when you take a look at this, it's really a non-traditional approach to looking for talent to pull into your groups to deliver those insights. And the reason why Lowe saw value in me was because they saw someone who had the business acumen and the business background who could think not just about the what, but the so what and what it means for Lowe's. So it's not just about trying to find a person who's got XYZ research degree, but those are important. We have a very well-rounded team, and we do have those people who have those really strong research backgrounds. I'm not saying that that's not important, but you need to diversify that skill base within your talent pool. And it's not just me, and so what I'm going to do now is segue into a video that showcases a little bit more of our team. So you can see just how these diverse experiences help us to foster that level of innovative culture and those behaviors and how we think it delivers insights for the organization. Lowe's has tried to evolve over the last few years to try to be more of a differentiated company. We feel that it's very important to have people who can reflect some of those needs and some of those interests and even some of those experiences that our customers themselves have.
So there's a lot of different skills that we look for and that we need to possess in our department to be able to communicate effective insights to the organization.
When you think about the stereotype of who does research, a lot of people get this image of someone sitting in a back room with no windows at their computer for 10 hours a day just crunching numbers. And if you take a look at who we have within our talent pool, it's very different.
Everybody has a different strength, a different talent, and when you bring all these strengths and talents in together, it makes the team as a whole stronger.
I think research takes creativity, and I actually use my background mostly to figure out the best way to present data to people who aren't used to seeing data all the time. So I like to use my background in architecture and design to try and think of different ways to show data to the client.
Getting in the field and meeting people as a journalist was an interesting way to see how a lot of the quantitative statistics were manifesting in real life. So it really gives you that human perspective up close.
What I can take from my past life in the design world is you want to have that consumer's voice along the way at each stage of the process. It doesn't just happen in the ideation phase. You need to have it at the validation phase too.
And when
you get a group together and have these discussions, I think that's the best way to innovate, when you do bring different backgrounds, different teams together. You even collaborate outside of our team to generate these great discussions.
When you do form a team or do a collaborative effort and you get different points of views based on, their past experiences, the more of those different perspectives you bring to it, the more likely you are to get better ideas and different ways of thinking about it, and that's that's the richness, I think, of the team we have now, is we have so many different backgrounds.
I think it's critical if we want to stay relevant and really want to make sure that we are bringing the voice of the customer to life, because if we aren't innovative and we don't figure out the best way to really bring that voice of the customer to life, then it could very easily be looked over.
Where the dynamics of the team really come to life is to understand the methods that are proven and the ones that are new and innovative, because frankly, business models are not safe anymore.
Especially when you're talking about projects. Tell me why you're doing it and what you're looking to benefit from this. How's your family going to benefit from this kitchen remodel? I think it's important to go beyond just a product and to really think how you're going to play into their life.
The end benefit to the customer is that they might see and experience things within our store, online, through the call center, based on recommendations from the insights team that they may not have otherwise had we not had that diverse school of thought to begin with in our group.
To be able to relate to customers is extremely important. And I think being able to understand that and extract that information and then being able to communicate it to the organization, I think you need a diverse set of insights professionals to be able to do that effectively.
Because our leadership has really embraced this idea of bringing in really different methods and people with non-traditional backgrounds. And I guess you could say that's a form of innovation in itself. The output at this company in particular is really getting excited because leadership is bought in what we're doing.
And I think a lot of companies are starting to see that that's how the future needs to look like in order for us to relate to not just our customers, but also the business issues that the company is facing. All right, so in summary, just a reminder, it's not just the tools. It's not, processes, the tools, they're great, but they can't affect change by themselves alone. The writer is the key to really fostering that more innovative culture and bringing forth that change. And once you have that innovative culture, you really have to foster the talent within the culture. So the talent has to be diverse, the talent has to be agile, but you also have to nurture that talent as well, which I didn't get into. That's a whole other story. And then finally, the organizations themselves do not innovate, it's the people who innovate. So by investing in your people and the right people, you can eventually get through that natural path of innovation, which leads to more of that tangible innovation that we always talk about. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.